After an emotional day at Meadow Park on Saturday, we're back to look back at all of the events. We're going to be talking about Arsenal's 5-0 win over Brighton and Hove Albion. We're going to talk to Daisy about her first ever press box experience there at Meadow Park, looking back on Vivianne Miedema's fitting send-off, and then discussing Stina Blackstenius' new contract and the squad Arsenal have picked to go to Australia for their post-season friendly. Daisy, first and foremost, just how much did you enjoy Saturday, your first experience covering Arsenal women? It was great to have you there.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Something that, like I say, I didn't really process until like after the game had happened. Obviously, being a fan, like you go into it as well a little bit like, whoa, like you gotta be professional, you gotta take it all in at the same time. But also, I think fantastic like game as well. Like I couldn't have asked for a better performance to go along with it. Obviously, it made it a lot better that we scored 5 goals, confident victory, little bit emotional. Obviously, we'll get into that about Viv, but. Yeah, all round really, really good experience.
Was that the biggest sort of learning curve for you then, the transition, if you like, from being a fan to being a journalist and just how differently you have to act in the press box?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't think I'd really thought about that before, actually, how much that will play into it. I think, especially with it being the last day of the season as well, like there's more emotions and with that as well, the players that were leaving, things like that. So I sort of kept a really, really like sensible head, tried to enjoy it, and tried to take that experience as well, like getting used to how that all works on Twitter and trying to post content on there, and obviously trying to do it all within actually watching the match as well. That was the bit that was I didn't think would be so difficult, was trying to focus on the match and get the content out there as well. So yeah, really, really good experience.
Definitely a lot to do on a match day, and between the two of us, I think I was quite grateful to have an extra pair of hands, to be fair, because we did have a lot of work to do, plenty going on, during and after the game. A 5-0 win for Arsenal. Alessia Russo would have hogged the headlines probably in any other day. 2 goals early on to really move the game into Arsenal's hands. I don't think Brighton were maybe as bad as the scoreline reflected, but Arsenal did play it really well, and that can be quite easily forgotten about. But I have to say, I was quite impressed by Jonas Eidevall's side on the final day of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like if we look at the things that Arsenal have struggled with this season, it has been being clinical, being versatile, just ultimately trying to get the scoreline to reflect their performances. I think we've seen many games where we've looked at it and we've thought this actually doesn't reflect the way that Arsenal have performed. They just haven't taken their chances. And today was an example of we've taken our chances. We could have had six if obviously Kimmy had scored the penalty. So
Mm.
yeah, I don't think Brighton played bad by any means. I think Arsenal like sort of nullified their tactics a little bit. Obviously, we knew Jonas had said about their crossing, their set pieces, things like that. So I think we just really, really focused on what we could do well and how we could stop them. And that was ultimately reflected in winning 5-0 in that game.
Good signs for next season, do you think? How happy will Jonas Eidevall be with that overall performance, and what did they do right on that final day?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you look at individual players as well that performed well, that's obviously something that Jonas is focusing on. He mentioned trying to build positive relationships. I think we're starting to see that. We've seen it a lot here and there, but we're starting to see it solidify out wide. I love that Fox is coming into this side and getting to be part of the attack, really. She's sort of linking up with Mead extremely well on that side. You've obviously got Ford and McCabe who are building that relationship on the pitch. On the other side, Russo, I think, obviously was a strong performer. If you obviously with the goal scoring, that's what you want from her. But if you look at the way she performed as well, she proved there that you can actually still drop deep and play that deeper role, but also score the goals. I think that will be really, really positive for Jonas as he sort of decides how he's going to play next season. I think it really would just came down to being effective in front of goal. I think that's what made it so such a high scoreline and made Arsenal look so confident in the way that they were playing compared to maybe previous games this season where we haven't really done that.
Yeah, at times Arsenal can be a little polite when they get in and around the penalty area, can't they? There was that real decisiveness, as you said, when these players
Yeah.
were going through and going. There was a really triumphant finish, if you like, by Alessia Russo for her first goal, and then Miedema will come on to Martin. Both goals scored by being played in behind and taking their moment, not taking too long, not thinking about it too much, and getting that finish away. Plenty of injuries that Arsenal had to contend with, quite a few absences, obviously have built up this season. which will be another good sign in terms of how well Arsenal responded. We've since found out that Lotta Woodman-Moyes dropped out of the upcoming England squad with a foot injury, but she was awarded the Arsenal and the Arsenal Women's Supporters Club Player of the Season. I feel like we've barely touched on her, and she is a player who can come under the radar. But would she have been your pick? Because she was certainly mine for Player of the Season.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think anyone would tell you any different, really. She Unfortunately, with the injury, I think that has played into like the past however many games she's missed towards the end of the season. That is disappointing because when you have such a standout season, you want to be there till the end. And I really wish she could have played because she deserved it. But I'm really glad that she was there and that she got appreciated for what she's done. You're right. I think players like that do go under the radar. They're not scoring the goals. They're not the big names, but Arsenal fans do tend to do quite well with seeing the players that have standout seasons. Obviously, we praised Kim Little all season because she's another one that goes under the radar. It's happened previously with like Leah Volti and things like that. It's those kind of players that don't get credit. But yeah, definitely with Lotta, I think that was a clear and obvious choice for everybody, and I'm really glad she got the credit that she deserved with that award.
Right then, Vivianne Miedema off the bench, scoring with her first touch. I've written a piece about it because I just felt, she deserved to, scoring with her first touch, coming off the bench. And I've put in there, it says that time waits for no one. And Leif has said as well, there's no sentiment in football. It's often said, but, Viv Miedema just has her moments. And even Jonas Eidevall has obviously come under so much criticism for this decision. He said not many players can write their own scripts, but perhaps Viv can. And she did. It was magical. Everybody there at Boreham Wood, even the Brighton fans were clapping. That's an I was there moment for years to come. It really was. It was special to be a part of.
Yeah, definitely. She's one of those players, isn't she? We've talked about this so much. She's broken records. She's just integrated herself into this Arsenal, like the spirit, the club. I think that was shown in the response to the decision to let her go. Like there's something about Viv that just is stand out compared to so many other players. And even putting sentiments aside, and obviously most people didn't want her to go because of how much she meant to the club. But as a player, moments like that, like you say, like they go beyond the normal rules of football. She proved that today. She's there in the big moments. Like she can make anything happen. And I think maybe potentially that's not the way that Arsenal would have wanted that script to go in terms of proving their decision in the long run. But yeah, there's just you wouldn't have words to say, don't you, about somebody like Viv? And I'm just think we're just so glad really that she got that moment and the fans and the other players and everyone got that moment for her to. But it is always going to be disappointing. But she just proved there really just what kind of player she is.
I think the fact she celebrated as well, that's a real rare moment, and everyone's celebrating with her. There were some great pictures of that. Got to plug Liberty Simons, who was clattered into by Katie McCabe in the first. Didn't stop her getting those great snaps of
No.
the scoring. How did you feel about, the decision to let her go before Saturday? And did your feelings change at all after she came on? Because it's very easy to look at that, isn't it, and go, well, look, Arsenal are letting her go. But let's say she never was able to come on and we just got on with it and said goodbye at the end. We might feel a little different. Of course, she showed her moment of magic. Of course, she's capable of that. But Arsenal have still stuck to this decision, haven't they? How do you feel about it after seeing that goal and the assist as well?
Yeah, I was one of the people who obviously wanted her to stay, like looking into it from all angles, sentiments, like what you bring to the team, all things like that. And like I said just then, I think maybe they didn't want it to go that way, potentially because obviously when you see that moment, you see the reaction from everybody in the stadium. That plays into that narrative of, well, why have you let her go? And we obviously can't predict what it will be like long term. I think it also probably gave her confidence. She needed that, just like that Liverpool goal that she scored. We thought after that point maybe that would be it. And I think it really wasn't, and that is unfortunate. But I was always somebody who stuck with my decision, and I just think Saturday sort of definitely played into the emotions a little bit, but also proved really when she can get going again. This is the Viv that we know is still in there, and obviously things like that happen and it might not work out that way and it might have just been a moment of pure brilliance, but it's that kind of thing, isn't it, that we want to build those relationships with players. And I think even unfortunately saying this without Viv, that definitely shows that that is possible with certain players in this squad to build that relationship, and we can really make that something that's key to our performances next, especially next season and on into the future.
Let's talk about the atmosphere after the game then. Kayla Marquis, Sabrina D'Angelo both saying goodbye and amazing atmosphere. Look at someone like Kayla who's done so much good work away from the pitch, but she's only made two appearances on it. But Arsenal, what I love about the Arsenal fans is that they've recognised so much, the characters these players are away from the pitch, and that really was taken into consideration. It was an amazing farewell for both of the goalkeepers. It was nice to be able to ask Sabs a couple of questions after the game, and she was really good with us over in the media. But look, a few shouts, let's say, directed towards Jonas Eidevall and no one else really during Vivianne Miedema's speech afterwards. I understand the emotion, absolutely, and especially after the goal went in. But was it the right time to do it when Viv was obviously emotional, trying to get her words out and trying to say goodbye?
Yeah, for me, I don't think it's the right moment for something like that. And I think that was reflected. Obviously, we know Leah Williamson shared her view on that. She didn't seem impressed with those kind of chants or those kind of words in that moment. There is a time and a place for it. Obviously, the club are most likely aware of the reaction that is happening. They always will be. They'll always look, won't they? They won't just ignore that because, as you say, the fans are such a big part of this club and why this club is what it is. We can have a season that we may class as disappointing, underwhelming, yet we'll still come out in our numbers. That was one of the best atmospheres I've seen this season, and it's no surprise. Sabrina got the love before the game. Kaylin got the love during her speech. It's just that kind of the kind of club that we are. We are passionate, and with that comes certain individuals who are overly passionate about taking this club to where it belongs. You can understand why they would feel that way at this moment in time, especially with Viv's performance as well. But there is a time and a place for that, and obviously the club are going to be aware of that, and they'll be monitoring that so closely, going forward on how people are receiving that. And also, you've just got to make the right decision, haven't you, as a business and as a club?
Yeah, it was awkward at times, wasn't it? It did show certainly the sentiment that was there, but I feel if you're gonna respect a player that much, then that's not the right time. There was plenty of time, obviously, during the game. There was some certain banners, posters held up that I could see, Viv in Jonas out, that sort of thing. And fans are within their right to express their opinions. But this is the last time we're going to hear from Vivianne Miedema in an Arsenal shirt. And unfortunately, a shout from the stands. The damage has been done at that point, and but it does show just how controversial that decision was because it's not often you're going to hear the Arsenal fans like that, and it has been a sort of a week where they had been quite polarized leading up to the game. But I feel maybe the goal has hopefully brought people together a little bit more because it was such a nice atmosphere, and everyone, as I say, including the Brighton fans, were just enjoying the moment. It was great, but Miedemar saying goodbye, it is going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I haven't really thought about that, actually processed it, that she's not going to be there next season. And when you think about that, it's kind of what it's like when a player is at a club for so long. You get used to them in the nicest way possible. They're just there, aren't they? And you can rely on them, you can play them week in, week out, you can bring them on when they're needed. It really, really is going to get going to take some getting used to. And obviously it does depend as well, doesn't it, on where Viv goes next in her football journey. Will we see her every week in the league at a different club? That in itself will be extremely weird, probably for the fans, Arsenal fans, and for Viv herself. She's never seen not played against Arsenal in a long time. So whether that is a week in, week out thing in the WSL or if she joins a different club, who knows? But it is going to take some getting used to. I think that's not just for the fans, is it? That's for Viv herself, and everybody involved.
Yeah, there will be a reunion at some point, won't there? And that's
Yeah.
going to be exciting to watch. Moving on, some good news this morning. Stina Blackstenius signing a new contract. I have to say, Arsenal, their policy is they don't disclose the length of any new contracts. Like, so I can't have any sort of reporting in terms of the length of the new deal. Her existing contract was set to end this summer, and we know that a few other major clubs were interested in her. We know Arsenal were fairly confident the last couple of weeks of her putting pen to paper, and she's obviously very happy to stay.
Yeah, a major contract renewal there. I think we were very hopeful that that would happen, especially after we heard the news about Viv. I think we really did need, didn't we, some positive news. I think Stina is such an important player for Arsenal. Maybe another one, like we said before, that goes under the radar. Her goal scoring abilities, her records, the stats, they don't lie, do they? She might be a chaotic player at times, but she's always there for Arsenal when they need her. She's there in the big moments. Obviously, this season, Conti Cup final, we won't forget that. And you could just tell, couldn't you, from the announcement, the mutual love between her and the club and the fans. Everybody was so excited about that. I don't think anybody would have chosen for her to go. And also, she must really believe in the club and what we're doing here and the fans because she's like you say she's turned down some big opportunities to stay at Arsenal. She must be a key part of their plans. And I think that's just the most deserved news that we could hear because she really does deserve to be in that team. The amount of hard work and goals that she scored for us. So I definitely think that played into it. But yeah, great news that Stina stays at Arsenal.
I did like the video of her sort of sitting down and watching her teammates pay tribute to her. It's nice when people say nice things about you, isn't it? And she certainly
Yeah.
enjoyed that. It was a real mark of her certainly staying and the reasons behind it. Almost didn't realise personally that she's our top scorer in the last two seasons for a player who often doesn't start a lot of the WSL games. She's obviously been a real Conti Cup hero. It is her sort of competition at the moment. 18 goals in the last two seasons, 43 goals in 83 games, 28 years of age. How will Arsenal look to get more from her next season now?
Yeah, and I think that's definitely to do with how we fit her into the team. I think hopefully we see her play more of a role in terms of in the starting 11. We know what she can do from the bench. We've seen that. It's just about really, you sign a player like this on the contract. She turns down other clubs. She needs to be getting more game time. It's just the truth, isn't it? She needs to be included in the plans. We need to work around Stina. She's a very versatile player. We know that. She can play in the number nine. We've seen her play a deeper role. Same as what the argument that we have with Russo. It's about playing them two together. That was a big talking point earlier in the season as well, wasn't it? Getting those two to play together, and how we can integrate that into the plans that Jonas has. So hopefully we see more of Stina in the starting 11. I think she can grow as a player. And I think if like you say, if we're looking at that 18 goals and that's not even starting, do we see that even improving when she's in the starting 11? That she could only score more goals, hopefully. So it's just about integrating her into the team and yeah, going from there, really.
Well, one way she'll look to improve next season is obviously if Arsenal swap the Conti Cup group stage for the Champions League group stage. That'll be a real test of how Arsenal look to use her against some of Europe's top clubs, as opposed to maybe a bit of a lesser standard. With the greatest respect to the Conti Cup, Jonas Eidevall said Stina is a top class striker. I'm delighted that she's signed a new deal with us. Her goal scoring naturally takes a lot of the focus. But Stina's game is so much more than that. She's incredibly hardworking and brings so much to the team with her clever running and physicality. I know she'll continue to be a huge part of what we're building here at the club. And do you think Arsenal would have said to her, or she'll have said to Arsenal, look, I'd like a few more minutes to be staying here? And we did see a few of those given to her probably in the lead up when those contract talks started to happen. She was starting a little bit more, obviously came on and scored those goals against Manchester City. But she will be a player who's probably hungry for a little bit more involvement. For you, is it all about that Blackstenius Russo partnership, or will it be one or the other?
I think it completely depends on how we build those relationships going forward. I've always really, really liked Stina and Russo together, not necessarily one in front of the other. Even trying that maybe as two strikers and seeing how we can work that into the midfield might be something that Jonas will consider. It will mean changing his system slightly, and we know at times he likes to stick to the same system. But potentially in those negotiations with Stina, that was something maybe that was brought up. I think she'll be looking at that thinking, I've had other offers from elsewhere. We don't know if that's to start, but you would expect her to be getting a lot of game time at other clubs if she was to join them. So I think that all played into her decision to stay. And it's really about trying to integrate her into that team on a regular basis, build those relationships with other players, whether that is Russo, whether that is, more game time with other people who might play behind her, that kind of thing. So I do think she'll play more. I hope she'll play more, and I hope that that will pay off for Arsenal.
She did miss the Brighton game due to injury, and she's one of quite a few sort of first team regulars who've been omitted from the travelling squad to go to Australia later this week, Friday morning, UK time. I think it's Thursday night or Friday night, perhaps local time. Of course, such a huge time difference. But Arsenal over to Melbourne, Australia to play the A-League All-Stars, a 19-player travelling squad. Let's start the big headline. Sarah Buhadi came in on a short-term deal earlier this season, sort of midway through the season, to cover for Sabrina D'Angelo, and she was away at the Gold Cup. Never played a minute of action. Loved her time at the club by all accounts. Obviously, a very experienced goalkeeper who's won a lot of silverware, and now she's back basically to travel likely to play, I guess, against the A-League All-Stars, although Naomi Williams, who also hasn't played a minute of football this season, is also in the squad. I mean, if Sarah Bohadi plays, she's surely becoming an Arsenal cult hero, isn't she? What a story.
Yeah, a really, really crazy story as well. Obviously, she signed, like you said, didn't get any games for Arsenal, but it was, I think we're looking at this, her inclusion in the squad to go to Australia, that is probably like works for both parties in that sense. She hasn't had much football. She probably wants that, especially if she's going to continue playing and going on to another club. Obviously, we know we don't have Sabrina D'Angelo anymore. Manu Zinsberger not included in the squad, potentially, due to her wife and the pregnancy. We don't know that for certain, but Naomi is an interesting one too. Academy player, quite young. Would love to see her get a game. Don't get me wrong, she's been included in the squad so much, but
Yeah.
I think it's probably about having that cover, and obviously Sarah Buhadi getting potentially game time that's so vital to her, and Arsenal needing the goalkeeper. So it's worked out for both people. But yeah, really, really interesting situation, and I think that's yeah, the Arsenal fans are gonna love that, aren't they?
It will. Yeah, for me, it makes more sense for Naomi Williams to play, give her the opportunity, looking at future development. But obviously, if you're going to bring Buhadi all the way out there, perhaps she's eyeing it up as a bit of a holiday, and you can't blame her because
Yeah.
there's definitely sense in it for her, personally to travel out there. Before we get into the rest of the squad, there's some interesting names in and out of it. How sort of invested are you in this friendly? Have you been watching the Arsenal content? Are you going to be up at 10 a.m. on Friday morning to watch it? And does it feel necessary? Are you excited? Do you think you might be later on in the week?
I am excited and I will be getting up to watch it and I think I would but no matter who we were playing or why we were playing them but I do think I can understand people who may be a bit skeptical about why this is being played. I'm hearing both sides of the story, the fans out there have it's become quite a large fan base over in Australia, the Australia girls going out as well and just basically we're just really grateful for obviously the fans that are out there but I do understand the timing is what people are looking at and thinking this is extremely soon after the season and soon before European qualifiers that are quite important for so many people. But obviously, we will get into the squad, but we know there are some missing who are playing those European qualifiers. Maybe that plays into it, but then also you see the likes of Alessia Russo being included, and you think maybe not. So I will be getting up to watch it. I am excited to hopefully, for me, it's about seeing those academy players, isn't it? And obviously, Jonas has got a decision to make about who's going to stay, who's going to go on loan again. And this could be a vital game, really, to prove in Arsenal colours that these players have got a chance of being in the team in the squad next season.
Yeah, a few players returning from loan spells away. Katrine Kuhl, Freya Godfrey, and Layla Harbert. Layla Harbert, 17 years of age, returned from the under-17s Euros in Sweden on Sunday night, I'm told, and then left yesterday to fly to Australia. A lot for a 17-year-old, but obviously it's an amazing experience of her, all of that travel. Freya Godfrey, probably a player we'll want to see a little bit of, and then some academy talents as well. Maddie Earl, someone I'm a big fan of, has really impressed with the under-21s this season, going away to their Blue Stars FIFA Youth Cup campaign in Switzerland. She won the Golden Ball there, was named player of the tournament, and she was really impressive. Katie Reed there, Vivian Leah, Taya Goldie as well. So plenty of exciting players, and then quite a few, first team regulars as well. Emily Fox, Frida Mornham, Kim Little, Victoria Pelova, Alessia Russo, Chloe Lacasse, and then the Aussie trio as well. Jamie Spanger wrote a really, really good piece for the Gooners Arsenal Women Online edition, looking at her side of the argument about the friendly, the benefit it will have for the A-League All-Stars, who will be managed by Joe Montemuro, of course, a familiar figure to Arsenal. So that'll be interesting on the face of it. Plenty of omissions from the squad. Leah Williamson, Leah Volti, Blackstenius, Mead, Zinsberger, Kadina, and then Wilburn Moyes, we touched on with a foot injury. Quite a few of these players with internationals, European qualifiers to come, but you'd imagine they'd have had a fair bit of say, wouldn't you, in terms of if they wanted to come, and the likes of Russo are obviously up for it.
Yeah, definitely. And you maybe argue that some of it is potentially the big names going out there as well. Obviously, that's great because you want that to happen. I don't think they would have gone, would they, if they didn't want to? They seem extremely happy anyway in the videos that we've seen. So McCabe, Russo, who have
Mm.
also got big European qualifiers but have chosen to go out. And I really like that. I really like that we've got that mixture of those experienced squad players going out there with the youngsters. It just helps them out, doesn't it? Obviously, the big news probably that the senior centre backs, so we haven't really taken anybody. Obviously, Catley's gone out there. We've got Katie Reed who could potentially play. Forgive me if I'm like forgetting of any others
Taya
potentially.
Golby would be
Yeah,
the
we've got the
yeah.
youngsters, haven't we? Yeah, the youngsters for sure. But I think that's interesting because that opens up straight away a starting position for a youngster, young academy player who can definitely prove himself. If you have one good performance, people will be looking at that if they're watching and think, "Wow, could this player play a part in Arsenal's future sooner than we think? Could they? Do they need to go on loan?" And obviously, it's not just dependent on this game, but I am really excited to see some of those youngsters play a proper game together for Arsenal.
Just finally, then, 19-player travelling squad, five of which have not played a single minute for Arsenal this season, three returning from loan spells away. Do you think the fans who are out there, the Arsenal fans and then the Australian fans looking forward to the game, is that just about probably enough of an Arsenal squad for them to think, you know what, this is worth my ticket price and everything? Because if Arsenal did literally send most of the under-21s and Sarah Buhadi and the Aussie trio, I think maybe you'd feel a little short-changed, but I feel like there's probably just enough there for it to be worthwhile.
Yeah, you're right. And I know obviously there'll be some talk about like Leah Williamson, Beth Mead not going, obviously just for the fact that not only they're great players for Arsenal, but they're big names. But like you said, I think when you've got that perfect combination of we're not just sending the academy players, we're sending McCabe, we're sending Kim Little, obviously club captain, we're sending Alessia Russo. That definitely helps. I think that's probably one of the other reasons why they've been included in the squad, apart from just integrating. Obviously, like you say, these players haven't played together. So even if it is a friendly, it is a difficult task to train so quickly and to get ready for Friday's game and be ready to play as a team. It's not the easiest to play as a team if you've never played together before. And probably that starting 11, depending on what it is, probably haven't played much football together as a whole. So it's about integrating really those senior players who have played together and those who maybe haven't played together for Arsenal.
Well, I heard that Arsenal the players wanted to go to I think a particular a coffee shop and then Melbourne Zoo. And I went to Australia when I was about 3 or 4, and that zoo was definitely a highlight if I remember rightly. So I can't blame them for choosing there. We'll certainly see how that pans out. Good to see these academy players hopefully get an opportunity. As for how to watch the game, I still am unaware of how it's being shown in the UK. I'd imagine maybe Arsenal.com would look to do some kind of coverage, but I'm still waiting to hear anything in that regard. So I'll keep people updated with that. But you'd imagine there'll be one way or another of watching it. Daisy, great to see you on Saturday. Thanks for this. We'll be back next week, probably on Thursday, because I'm on holiday for a few days, so probably on Thursday. But always good to catch up.
Yeah, thank you so much. Another great episode, and yeah, always great to talk about Arsenal.